What's going on, sports fans? We're talking college football in the Deep South, where college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speak Sports, and we're talking Auburn football like it's nobody's business. Let's go ahead and get the comment section active as we're talking about Auburn versus Oregon. 2019 in the Advocare Classic, that game is going to be taking place August the 31st, the opening football game for both teams. Here's the situation, guys. We got a quarterback out in Oregon, Justin Herbert, who is projected to be drafted highly this coming draft class in the NFL. Justin Herbert has had a pretty solid tenure as an Oregon Duck. Also listed in USA Today's top Heisman candidates, I think Justin Herbert could possibly, he has the opportunity to definitely do so. When we look back at 2018 season, the only issue that we run into a lot with Justin Herbert and his receiving core, you're talking about 52 passes dropped for the Oregon Ducks in 2018. Had a chance to look at an article where when you talk about the yardage opportunities missed, you're talking about 852 yards of possible production that could have been to Justin Herbert and his receiving core's credit, which could have possibly helped, which would have helped Justin Herbert's stats tremendously. When we talk about Heisman candidacy, though, I think Justin Herbert is obviously going to have a very solid year. But when we talk about Heisman candidates, we look back at Marcus Mariota, who was also an Oregon Duck, won the 2014 Heisman for the Oregon Ducks, and also led Oregon to their last Pac-12 championship and a national championship game appearance against Ohio State, where they subsequently lost that game, after thrashing Florida State 59-20. Everyone kind of sort of thought that, Oregon was going to take that ball game against Ohio State, losing that game 42-20. But when we look at Marcus Mariota's production, you're talking about 10 games where Marcus Mariota had 300 or more yards, and even in some games led the rushing as well. You talk about against number 17 Utah back in 2014, where Marcus Mariota had 239 yards passing and 114 yards rushing. When we look at also the more recent Heisman candidates, we look at Kyler Murray, who had about 9 games with 300 yards or more. So that's definitely a stat that Justin Herbert is going to have to really improve on coming into the 2019 season. Now, we would like to believe that over the course of the offseason that this is an area, the drop passes is going to definitely be improved. If you look at the spring game, as a matter of fact, one of my subscribers and adamant Oregon supporters, Derek Luke, pointed out that there were only 3 drop passes of catchable balls in that particular football game. Now, the game against Auburn is not going to necessarily be an easy task for Justin Herbert, especially if the statistics line up. You talk about Auburn from 2018 as a defense did not allow but 3 quarterbacks to throw for over 300 yards during that season. You're talking about Tamu at Ole Miss. You're also talking about Quarantino from, I think that's how you pronounce his name, from Tennessee, who had 300 yards passing against the Auburn Tigers. And, of course, Tua Tagovailoa with a stellar second half against Auburn with 324 yards passing. Auburn brings back the majority of the defensive line, including a Derek Brown, who we're going to do another video on his need to have a breakout season for Auburn to be ultimately successful on the defense. Of course, this is now Derek Brown's defense, but of course we're going to get into that at a later time. But we talk about Justin Herbert, though. He has all the tangibilities to make this happen. He has a very strong arm. He has a very accurate arm. He's also effective with his legs. That's something that is a very underrated quality about Justin Herbert as we talk about, his leadership coming into the 2019 season. Definitely have a nice cast around him, have a huge offensive line averaging about 300 pounds. That's something that we did not see from Oregon the last time Auburn and Oregon played one another back in the national championship game in Glendale, Arizona, where Auburn subsequently won that game 22-19. Of course, the debacle of Dyer was down is something that has been storied in that particular ball game. So, we look at this. I think Justin Herbert will have a great season. I think he will be highly drafted. But, of course, the drop passes will definitely be something that has to be much improved for the Oregon Ducks to give Justin Herbert the opportunity to be among the elite quarterbacks in Oregon history. Oregon also has aspirations to make it back to the Pac-12 championship game for the first time since 2014, and also possibly making some noise as candidates for the college football playoff. But like we re-emphasize, Justin Herbert is going to definitely have to have those marquee, those memorable games as his predecessor, Marcus Mariota, did have. And only having 2 games where he threw for 300 or more yards is just not going to get him that Heisman candidacy that a lot of the Oregon Ducks fans feel that he should be up for. I think on the USA Today poll, he was around like number 8, so definitely a dark horse candidate. And barring a very, very stellar season, could potentially be among the finalists for the Heisman Trophy. Big shout out to Justin Herbert and the Oregon Ducks as they get ready to take on my Auburn Tigers August 31st, 2019. They're going to be taking on an Auburn Tigers team that is going to be inexperienced in some key areas, though, especially at the linebacker position. I expect, Justin Herbert and this offense to really try to exploit not only the linebacker core for Auburn, but also Auburn struggled a lot on the secondary as well. When you talk about pass interference calls, I think they're going to really test to see how Auburn has improved in their secondary. We would like to think with the return of Wesley McGriff as secondary coach, his secondary tended to be very disciplined, did not create many turnovers, but they did tackle very well and they did cover very well and definitely have the tools in place to do so. As far as Noah Igbenogany, who could be poised to have an all-SEC season, he definitely has the athleticism to do so, but want to make sure that his skills as a cornerback continues to upgrade as this season unfolds. We also have Christian Tutt, who's going to be playing that nickelback position, and Javaris Davis, the speedster, who will be more than likely the boundary cornerback. Looking at Nick Coe as well at the Buck linebacker position. Usually when this position is highly productive, it produces great results for the Auburn Tigers. We're going to do more on this Auburn, our ongoing Auburn versus Oregon previews. Wanted to talk about Justin Herbert. Is he a Heisman candidate, or will he just have an outstanding season for the Oregon Ducks and be very productive and possibly be a first-round draft pick in the NFL this coming year? Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speaks Sports. Please comment on this particular video, subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, and make sure you leave a comment. Once again, War Eagle.